right back, Charlie's definitely.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. And we're back, people. Deluded, I'm back again. At this point, me and Jess have done many a show, and I'm sure you lot have tuned in. If you haven't, then get to know. Make sure you're subscribing. Her information's in the title. How you doing, Jess, man? We got a lot to discuss.
I'm good. I can't complain. I'm glad that we're talking now and not after we went out of the FA Cup. But yeah, every day that you beat Spurs is a good day. Like the day after, it feels good. They're crying as usual, like little babies. And yeah, so it's nice when you win, but then there's still some things to talk about because it wasn't perfect. So it makes our job a little bit more interesting. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's do this.
You're right, man. You touched on many a thing, man. You kind of dampen my mood. I completely have a race going out to Man United. But while it's fresh in the memory and you've mentioned it, let's get into the North London derby, man. You mentioned there's a couple of things you want to mention and it wasn't perfect. Let us have it, man. You're the guest.
That front line was like a clown show. It was like you could have put Trossard and Havertz and Sterling in a clown car and they would have come out with the red nose and everything. And it would have looked like, yeah, that's about right. We are such a good team outside of the opposition's box. We're like an excellent side from the midfield back, but obviously there's no Saka. So that makes a huge difference. But to see what we look like without him is really like, you know, and I can see, but I cannot fathom the Cronkies sitting there, seeing that, and then being like, nah, we good. Because Saka is on crutches still, so it's not like he's around the corner about to come back. We don't need to be running Ethan Nwaneri into the ground when he comes back from injury either. We need reinforcements badly, and they have 14 days to get it done. And I'm expecting it to get done.
Go on. I cut you. I was going to ask you a question on the Cronkies.
Yeah, I'm expecting them, especially after Declan, a call to action essentially in his press conference, which I love. Arteta saying, we're going to do something. And honestly, it really shouldn't have taken for Jesus' ACL for them to seem like they wanted to get something done. But I guess that was the trigger. And now Ornstein has come out and said that he's obviously careful with his words because he actually can't afford to get anything wrong. But it was like, basically, it's almost certain that they will do something. And so I'm expecting somebody to come in and I'm hoping it's not another, weird loan, situation, or I want them to move something forward for the summer. I want somebody that we've been linked to before, or somebody that they've been looking at for a while for us to bring that forward. Because I don't want to harp on it again, but that summer window was just not enough, so I'm expecting somebody to come in and they have about 14 days to get it done.
Do you think like the stars are aligning? Because again, I was watching the game, but I didn't see it. But people are telling me Josh Kroenke was there, as you've said, and I agree with you. Declan Rice with a call to action. I think Mikel Arteta has changed his terminology in relation to transfers and seems quite desperate. Do you think all the stars are aligning and we're actually going to get somebody in January? And why has it got to this point? Because me and you are a broken record. We've done many a video, even if everybody's fit and we, get well soon, Jesus. But if everybody's fit, me and you will still talk about a winger and a striker. Why has it got to this point as well then?
I just think they were never prepared to do business, and they literally have to be without a single option to make it. I think it's negligent to have come into the season without someone, but you see what they're about. They're very much, I think they overrate our players. I think that's the first thing.
Or the Cronkies?
I think the club in general, the supposed football people overrate the group. They think they came into the season thinking that we had enough, and anybody could have told you that we did not. And they never operate from like worst case scenario. I think they operate for the best case scenario. That's the only
Hoping
way
it doesn't rain rather than buying a jacket and an umbrella, etc.
100%, because that's the only way that you go through multiple seasons without backups for Saliba, Odegaard, and Saka. You have got to be always thinking that things are going to go our way.
Facts.
And being positive is one thing, but not having a plan B or a backup or preparing is another thing. It's preparing to fail. We all know the saying. So we've come into our worst case scenario, and that's pretty much the only way that they were going to operate. And it should have never gotten to this. It really should have been done in the summer prior to. But now we're in a situation where it's going to be really difficult to get somebody in unless we overspend. And you can't be knocking on people's doors trying to take their good players and then being like, yeah, so we want to do a loan. No.
You got to put your money where your mouth is, essentially.
Yeah, you have to, and listen, they're saying we don't have any problems with PSR. We're fine financially. So put the money on the table. Get it done.
I'm with you. I'm with you with that. But let me be devil's advocate. Yeah. Obviously, we know the Cronkies, like, you're American with the greatest of respect. We know they've come to love football, or soccer as they probably call it. Yeah. It's not really like NBA and NFL, and you can see what their teams are doing, right? If I play devil's advocate, we know what they do. They put the football in, or the knowledgeable people in place. They leave them to it. Is it fair to get at them in that regards then? Because we have spent a lot of money, Kai Havertz cost 65 million. Like, is it fair to the Cronkies to say that then, Jess?
I feel like if they're my biggest, he's out of control. My biggest,
He's agreeing with you, man.
Tom?
He's agreeing with you, man.
I think when it comes to the Cronkies, where I like differentiate them from the footballing people and like whose fault is what, is if the Cronkies are not ambitious and they basically only spent money up until the point of now, then to me it's a problem. To me, if they're saying, okay, we've gotten you into top 4, now we're going to stop spending, we're going to do self-sustaining, which that's what it feels like it is. The last window did kind of reek of one in, one out, you need to sell to buy. If that's the case, then they lack ambition, and this project is built around the same principles that it was built upon the entire time that we've been at the Emirates. Self-sustaining, top 4, nothing more. We're not going to push. That's where I would, look at them. But in terms of what they've done so far, they have offered enough where we should have the pieces that we need. We don't have the pieces that we need, mostly because we haven't recruited well enough. I just think that goes down to the football people. And we spoke about this the other day, is as time is going on, when we get away from the Rauls and the Mislintats and the Edus, and we're going into the Garlicks and the Lewises and these guys, we're moving away from football people to lawyers. And they're trying to mitigate risks by not buying or only buying
and that's a risk in
players.
itself.
Yeah, not buying anything outside of Prem proven and, just waiting. And as we've moved further along, I think we've gotten away from the plot. I really want to see us push for football, more talent, more aggressive, every window trying to improve. But it does kind of feel like they're trying to just keep the pockets tight. They're trying to keep a close grip on it. And it's starting to manifest itself on the pitch.
So where you at with Arteta then? Because obviously, Saka is Saka. And again, being devil's advocate, as you said, from the back upwards or into midfield, we're somewhat all right. Defense probably, especially. In fact, our defenders look more likely to score than our attackers 9 times out of 10. And obviously, Saka's the star boy. Ethan's obviously was a shining light prior to his injury. But when you look at it, Arteta's not really got the best of hits where it comes to attackers. So how much is down to him? Because his best player is someone that came through the academy in an attacking sense. And he has spent money. So how much is his fault?
I think one, I would imagine that he would want to be in a scenario where he has a lot of power. So I don't really blame him for taking it. It'd be rare for a manager to say, yeah, you're trying to give me all this power. I don't want it. So I think the club is culpable for giving him too much power too soon. But in terms of like where he's probably made a mistake, it's backing his coaching just a little bit too much, buying players that aren't necessarily perfectly suited and then wanting to coach them into something different and just completely ignoring certain parts of the pitch and thinking that you can coach non-clinical players to be clinical, coaching, non-strikers into strikers, those types of things that just
square pegs in round holes.
100%. And so, yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that he has to look at and say, can I just simplify my life a little bit more and just get those pieces? So, if our patterns of play aren't working, 9 times out of 10, those patterns of play open up good opportunities for us and we create enough chances. But when it doesn't work out, we need a plan B. And the plan B is having players that can create their own chances, score goals, make something out of nothing.
Facts.
And he doesn't give himself that. Also, it's the change of style. I think he can look at himself for that. He doesn't quite strike the balance enough for me. It's either, for the most part, for the last 2 years, it's just been a little bit too rigid. And I think that's all down to Mikel and his mentality. I'm not saying that he doesn't want to win. I think he almost wants to win too much in a way where he's holding it so tightly that he won't just relax a little bit. And you got to let your players do their thing. You have to give them a little bit more freedom. You have to let
Freedom within the framework, especially in the final third.
100%. And we found that, at the back end of last season. I don't quite think that we've gotten it right at the beginning of this season, but creating chances wasn't our problem in the last 3 games.
Putting the ball, hardest thing to do, putting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And I echo your point, because I feel it's one where you can't look at it one way. I think you've got many Arsenal fans that will just slag off the team, draw them out, etc., etc. And then you've got fans that will tell you about the XG, about the chances created. I personally think they fall into this trap of seeing double figures for shots, very few hitting on target. Now, in the Spurs game, we only had 4 shots on target. Now we got 2 goals of that. That's great. But I think that is the problem, in that we're creating chances. The vast majority of them are not really quality chances, and then the ones that are is falling to players that really and truly it's a gamble. Like, big up Trossard, he had a great goal and a great turn and all those things, but we could be sitting here against Aston Villa speaking about a missed chance, and me and you have spoken about Kai Havertz. So I'm with you in that it's incompetence. I'm definitely with you in that I like Mikel Arteta's coaching. I think he is a good coach. Whether he's the guy to get over the line is another thing. It's just there's no plan B. We don't go up the gears. We kind of commit to the same kind of logic. So it's almost like, I don't know how you feel, but do you feel like a lot of our issues on and off the field, to a degree, are self-inflicted? Because we've known about these issues for a while.
I think that I definitely think they're self-inflicted. I don't think that, you can look at anything that we've done and say that most of it is out of our control, or that there wasn't an opportunity to make sure that if this bad thing happened, that we had something to fall back on. So I think a lot of this is self-inflicted, and I'm not quite sure why we've gone down this path. Again, it's not that everything is nuanced, right? We're talking about a team that is 1 or 2, maybe 3 players away from being one of the best in Europe.
Is that what you believe?
Yeah, I do. I think that back part, that back team, like all of that, from like Declan Rice back, that's good. That's good. I don't see very many other teams that have
I don't think you're wrong.
better than what we have going that way. Up front is really where the difference is made. So it's not really like, even though it's like 3 players, that's still a lot in retrospect, but everything is not bad. But the fact that, we've had these issues, it's like, can we just get it done? Let's get it going. And I think the day that we
Bang on the money.
Yeah, I think like the day that we get that winger and that striker, if we ever do get it, it's gonna be so obvious that I think we'll be relieved, but also disappointed that it didn't happen sooner. Because I just think it's so obvious that we need that. Like,
I think we'll need something else by the time we actually do it. We're in love with an unfinished project, in my opinion, man.
Yeah.
I can't lie.
But I think with reliable attackers, there can be other holes in your team. Without reliable attackers,
Yeah,
you have to be perfect, and we don't have that ability to be perfect. We're perfect at the back end of last season, and we still didn't win. So it just leaves you with not enough wiggle room, So
the small margins and fine margins that our club loves to waffle about, but for me, it doesn't address these things, and it means we ultimately come up short. We have some great runs, even now. Like, as much as I agree with the questions over Mikel Arteta. I do. For me, I think he's a good coach. All of that stuff. My conversation is, can you get us over the line? That's the nuance. And I can understand with fans, as much as we're moaning, at the end of the day, we're second, we're still in the Champions League. We still are quite, there's many positives, which is, for me, makes me more angry at the club, because we have made progress, but ultimately during this Emirates era, there's nothing of significance. And as you said, the FA Cup, we threw it away. In fact, let's touch on that, man. Like, do you feel the best chances of trophies were thrown away last week? Apologies.
Yeah, I do. I think, especially when it comes down to the Carabao Cup, I know that Newcastle is not an easy team to beat, especially when they're in the best form. But when I think about the fact that we weren't even outplayed. They had two
Outclassed.
chances, then they put it away. And we had chances and we just couldn't hit a barn door. As good as Newcastle were, we still probably should have won that game. So,
United definitely as well, but big up both of
yeah.
them teams.
So you don't have to be the best team all the time to win a cup competition. I think 3 games away from winning a Carabao Cup is the closest we are to a trophy, and we really messed up that home leg. Like, it's pretty much over. So yeah,
Facts.
I think, yeah, in the FA Cup it's a little bit different because we don't know what would happen beyond that. There's still more rounds to happen, but to go out the way that we did
To 10 men.
was horrendous. It
Horrible.
was a low point of the season. And so, yeah, but I think we tend to do better when there's the option to draw. And what I mean by that is we're a better league team, which sounds weird because we haven't won the league, but we're a much better league side than a cup side. If there's an opportunity to
The
draw,
margins
I
are
think
smaller.
we're better. Yeah, exactly. Like, we can draw against Liverpool, we can draw against City, we can do those things. We can beat, the likes of Chelsea at home, and we can, get something away from home. But if it is a do or die or win or go home, we don't get the win. And that's where the mentality needs to change. We are a
We're a good
good
team. We're
league
not a great
side.
team. I agree. Like
Yeah.
that's what's stopping us getting significant
Mhm.
trophies. I got to ask you though, because you said it there. We're more of a league team. Obviously, we are still in the Champions League. There's a lot of football to be played. We know about the injuries, but Liverpool are still competing in quote unquote in everything.
Yeah.
I have to be one of those fans in order to, get where your viewpoint is. Could this make us stronger in the league? Obviously, the form might have changed. 1 game a week type of thing. Liverpool are competing in everything. Could this mean we're more likely to win the Prem? Raya seems quite upbeat on that as well.
Yeah, I think with the thinness of our team and how basically like we're at the bare bones, it should, in theory. My only thing with that is only if the players and the manager thinks that. I don't really care if the fans think that. I think when the fans say it, it's more coming from a place of copium. But if
Facts.
if the players are thinking, yeah, we're out of the FA Cup, but that means that we can really push in the league, and from here on out, we see performances that echo that feeling. Because if Raya's out here like, yeah, and then we turn around and are horrendous, then I'm be like, what are we, like, what are we talking about here? So yeah, I think the club needs to act. I think the players need to act. I think the manager needs to act, and it could end up being a positive. um but it puts more pressure on you to win one of these big trophies. So
Yeah. And I want to be wrong, as I'm sure every Arsenal fan that shares my viewpoint is. I always say I think the Prem is improbable. I know mathematically it is what it is, as you kind of alluded to. As long as there's a chance, players go as far as they can. I think it's improbable. I think the Champions League is impossible. I don't think we have enough in terms of quality. I don't think we've got that X factor. I think our manager, as much as I like him from a coaching aspect, hasn't showed the versatility that I need as well. A couple of people like kind of were talking while you was talking in the chat. Make sure you're smashing the like button and subscribing to the channels. Yeah. What do you feel about Arsenal under pressure? Because I agree with these two comments. I think Jerome has said we always crumbled under pressure in the Emirates era. And there was another one. It's playing under pressure. We have that issue for 16 years. Now, I have seen times where we have performed under pressure, but I agree with them. It does feel like when the pressure's really on, we're in trouble. But where are you at with that?
Oh, we're not a do or die team. We're
Mentality
just
monkey
not.
type shit. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
not.
we're not. And you know what? I think for the most part, what it comes down to is I don't want to lump all of our players into that they don't have the mentality. I know it's a team game, but I do think that the stronger mentalities really do lie further back. I think where we lack the
Even young
personality.
Lewis Kelly, guy's 18, fresh
Yeah.
out the womb. I'd say he's a mentality monster in comparison to his teammates.
Yeah, I think we need I think we need more personalities up front, and I think Sol Campbell spoke on it. I think Martin Keown has spoken about it. They've been in winning teams. They know that obviously there's always water carriers in teams. There's always the quieter players in the team, but you have personalities, and we don't have enough. And I think that's why there's a lot of scrutiny on the likes of Odegaard, a player that quietly leads, but when sometimes we need those moments, he doesn't quite show up. And I think that's our biggest downfall when it comes to those do or die moments. Because I do think when you could tell me, because you've played as well, but I think you believe more when you can look in front of you and see that there's a player that you could kick it up to and we have a chance. I think when you're looking at like a,
Facts.
mentally distraught Havertz and a inconsistent Sterling and stuff like that, it takes it out of you too. So I think making sure you have personalities would help us a lot in those do or die moments. But
Facts.
if you think about the Emirates, there's always been a lack. Not always, but there tends to always be something missing, whether it's up front or in the back. We're missing something. And I just think it comes down to enough personalities to get it over the line. I think you need more than just one person that's pushing. And that one team that was really, really good, like 2007, 2008, it was like literally just Sesk. Robin Van Persie was a sick note, so he was never around. So you can't just have one player that has a mentality. You have to have 3 or 4 or 5 ready to do the business. And right now, the only players I really see that are always ready to do the business for me is like Gabriel, the Rices, the Salibas, but going forward, Saka, that's it.
Saka's becoming a bit of a nasty one, but I think his one is more like you just got the star quality, really and truly. Like even Ethan, I love Ethan. I'm not drawing him out, but you can see like he's a good kid, like a good lad. I'm not saying Lewis Skelly isn't, but you can see that Ethan, in my opinion, went private school and all of that. Lewis Skelly was
MLS is a little, and like I'm not saying this in a bad way, but he has a little nasty streak in him.
Yeah, you can tell. You need that. Like you need that.
I agree.
Like nice guys finish last, man. I always say this when I'm with you. It's like we've got a good bunch of players. We've got players that if I had a daughter, you wouldn't mind them marrying them. But when push comes to shove, it's a nice guy thing. And to touch on what you said about playing, many a times in Sunday League, like when you're looking shook or you're playing rubbish and you look left, you look right, other players are getting with it or other players are G'ing you up, which I'm sure happens. It does lift you really. And it's even what you said there about the mentality kind of thing. It's like, I'm not saying the mentality is bad, but getting over the line or having that nastiness, who would you actually say in our team? Because I would say for me, I know the ability is not quite there, but I think Kai's got a bit of that with him. Again, his problems are in the other things. Benjamin White, I'd say he's got that. Timber's not exactly horrible, but he's not a punk. So I'd say him. Gabriel, of course. I'll throw Saliba. Declan Rice, I think you show up, but I think you're a nice guy. That's not enough where you're looking at 38 games and you at least need 14, 15 players like that in their own realm. Like you look at the Invincibles, you had what? You had Sol Campbell, as you said, you had Lehman, you had Lauren, even the ones that were on the bench. And I think we are missing. Is that a reflection of the manager then? Because they do say a team is a reflection of the coach. Is Mikel Arteta too nice then?
Yeah, I mean, Mikel is I think the team kind of it does reflect him. It reflects him as a coach. And I also think it kind of reflects him as a player too. Like somebody who obviously was like a good player, but had to work a little bit harder to get a little bit further, didn't necessarily have all the physical tools, but tried to make the best out of what he could. Everybody knew he was smart, the smarter player that can't really do all the physical things. I think he likes people that almost need like a little bit of coaching to get there. I think he likes that.
People that need an arm around them.
Yeah, he likes that, but the fact that I think we can look at the team and say unequivocally that he has not bought in a bastard yet, a real bastard kind of player. And the players that did have a little bit more,
I'd love us to sign a Diego Costa type striker, just in terms of mentality.
He hasn't done that. I think you can just say that he doesn't want those types of players. I mean, our highest paid player that he bought in, that he wanted badly, is a mentally fragile guy. And that's not to be shady to Kai, but everybody knows that every manager that's ever spoken about him has talked about how shy he is and how he needs a little bit more extra TLC, and that just shows like Arteta's I think he's just more concerned about how can I use this player tactically? Can I coach them into the player that I want them to be versus just going out there and get the most talented freaking player you can get?
And where does that leave you then? Because like you do a lot of content around Arsenal media saying we are seeing that we are seeing it with our eyes anyways, but we're being told by the journalists that Mikel Arteta's power is increasing in the team. Obviously, we haven't got a sporting director. Kind of piggybanking off that nastiness. Like, does it fill you with any confidence that we will find that really? Because you look at City, they've got bastards. You look at Liverpool, when it's time, they're bastards. We've had that before. Like, will there ever be that player? I'm not questioning whether there'll be good players, players with X factor, players that could score goals like we want, but will we ever have that? Because that was said about Tony, that the club just don't like him.
No, I don't. I think Arteta's clearly grasping more power, and I think that he's pretty consistent in what he looks for and what he wants. I don't think he's really changed, except for wanting to be, because even when we were playing more attacking, he still valued buying defenders, so I think he's pretty consistent in what he wants. And so if he gets more power, it's going to be more of the same. I think he is a little bit backed into a corner now. And so he will get attackers, like he will get at least one or two.
You got no choice, in my opinion.
Yeah, but listen, I am not a big fan of the manager having all the power. I didn't actually want him upgraded to manager. So this all just reeks of a huge mistake. And him hiring the sporting director and doing that kind of stuff, like we are going into Wenger without Wenger. Because the thing about
the credentials as well, really.
Yeah, the thing about Arsene, even though he kind of lost it towards the end, is his talent ID was impeccable. I don't think Arteta's talent ID is impeccable. I think it's very questionable. And so if he's picking all the players and he's picking players without that bastard mentality, and he wants to go out there and get more left backs that, there's red flags on them or more DMs or whatever.
We know we'll sign a goalie in a couple of seasons. Big up Ryle, but we've seen this.
So we're still talking about the Juan Garcia goalkeeper. And I saw people, yesterday, like, oh, Arsenal fans were bitching about, wanting to get this Juan Garcia, but he's the highest rated goalkeeper in La Liga. They don't know anything. And I'm like, are we going to pretend like that's the reason why people didn't want him? We spent the whole window chasing after an expensive number 2. That's the problem. Is Arsenal,
where, like you said, we were trying to save money as well.
Yeah, it's like, come on. We had money in the summer, but we chose to spend it on a left back, and we were also chasing an expensive number 2. And that's kind of the
Moreno.
Yeah, exactly. Another player that the reports just came out like yesterday that Arteta had to convince them to bring him in because they weren't convinced that at his age and the money that we were going to spend that we would get, the value for money. And Arteta doesn't even use Moreno in big games. So it's, if you think we're going in the right direction, fine. But I personally do not love this. It banks on Arteta having a much better talent ID. So
I don't know. Yeah. Like, is it fair to say it just like on brand with everything at Arsenal? It's a bit mixed. Like, is this talent ID really that bad?
It's suspect. It's not.
Yeah, is it really that suspect?
And it's not bad. I think it is suspect. I do.
In an attacking sense, million percent.
I think it's suspect. I really do. And I think the insistence on players with clear red flags or whatever, I think is the problem.
What's these red flags for those who are listening that might not understand the angle you're getting at?
Red flag would be you're in a position where you desperately need a striker or a winger, and you prioritize somebody like Calafiori, who the team around you is telling you that he has clear injury problems. You say, I don't care about that. This is the player that I want. And we barely even seen him this season because
he's necessarily first choice as much as I like him if everyone's fit, especially with Lewis Kelly holding it down.
Yeah. So when I say that it's suspect, I mean that you could probably go through the players that we've brought in since Arteta has been here and go about 60-40, maybe 60 have been successful, 40 have not been, or there's still questions around some.
Who's he brought in an attacking sense that's been a success as well? Now?
I mean, he hasn't really bought anybody. He's brought Trossard and Jesus. That's it.
And Kai.
And not even Kai. Kai was brought in for midfield. That's what I'm saying.
He failed upwards with that.
And I'm like, you can't even add him in because He failed as a left center mid. So that's a failed signing, just right off rip. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. I mean, he inherited Saka, he inherited Martinelli, and he inherited Saliba. 2 of those players are best players in this team.
Probably only Odegaard.
And I mean, he got in Odegaard, but
that's it.
Based
on what you said, I think that's it,
Yeah. So when I'm saying that he has a suspect talent ID, I'm not saying that he's gotten everything wrong. I'm saying that when you're a team that doesn't have owners that are just going to continue to spend, and when you're in a position where like they want to get to a self-sustaining model, you have to get those right more often than we are. I don't think we're in a position where we can get so much wrong, because we're not just going to have a £65 million player on the bench. They're going to make sure that player plays because he's our highest earner. We can't just bury Kai. That's not going to happen. And when we get ready to sell him, we'll struggle. There won't be an Arsenal dying to spend 65 million on him.
Chelsea couldn't believe their luck where that was concerned. Yeah. And they only lost 5 million on him, and they'll probably say, you know what, you scored in the champs for us. Fair play. What do you make of this comment? Shout out everybody commenting, people. We'll get through your comments in a sec. Don't forget to smash the like button, and we're going to Jesse's channel after. His talent ID isn't poor, it's who the club gets over the line. Now, where I feel on that, I feel that's a cop-out personally, because I feel when things go left, it's never Arteta's fault. When it goes right, it's all his. But what's your thoughts?
You said it. You exactly said it. Somebody told me this the other day. They were like, how can you say that, he's getting it wrong when he never gets his targets? And I'm like, these are his targets. Oh, well, 80% of the players that are in the team are not his number one choice. Are you guys joking? Raya is his number one choice. In fact, we had another goalkeeper and he binned him off like very, very harshly to get in his number one choice. So Raya, number one choice. Ben White, number one choice. Timber, number one choice. Right there, that's 3 number one choices. Rice, number one choice. Havertz, number one choice. Odegaard, number one choice. The only players that I can think of off the top of my head that are not his number one choices are like Jesus, because I think he wanted like Vlahovic maybe, and ended up getting Jesus. Zinchenko, who doesn't play. He doesn't even play, guys.
Even that, I reckon he wanted Zinny,
number one choice. He basically only got that, got him this summer. So this whole, like Viggs is saying, Sterling, Jesus, think about the ratio to the players that I said are his number one choice to the ones that aren't. Again, I said it's not like everything is bad, but the idea that he doesn't have like 80% of the players that we have are not his options when we know that they are, it's just excuses, guys. Like, it's just excuses.
Because you can't big up the guy and then not hold him accountable. And this is what I mean. When it comes to discussing Arsenal, it's either everything Mikel Arteta does turns water to wine. I do think there's some people that Arteta could literally shit in his hands and clap and they'll say it's amazing. And then there's people that everything's terrible. Now, if you think Arteta is the guy or not the guy and you're providing balance, I'm all for that. But this is where I don't think there's a lot of honesty. And really and truly, it's all speculative because none of us are at Arsenal seeing what's going on in that regards. And again, when I look at, I'm not criticizing Arteta because I do think, just for this, because I do think if we had some more clinical players, we would still score. But I think a lot of the talking points will be there. Obviously, just new signings would be good, but is it a simple case of you sign whatever striker, you sign whatever left winger, and everything's great? Or is there some coaching that Mikel Arteta has to address?
There's definitely coaching, because there's obviously a school of thought too, that if you just bring in the strikers, like, are they going to get the chances? If you bring in another winger, will they suffer some of the same fates that like Martinelli has suffered? So obviously he has to I think one of his biggest failings is his attackers. He doesn't like prop them up to do their best, like whatever they're best at doesn't come forward. And so I think Arteta needs to recruit players that can do the things that he wants if he's not going to change his system. But if he's going to recruit players that don't suit the system, then the system needs to change so that he can get the best out of them. Not everybody is a Saka. Saka is a unicorn. But I think sometimes he treats the other attackers like they're Saka, where it's like, well, if I need to do touchline, do touchline. If you need to come central, do central. Not everybody is a Saka. Saka is a...
That's what seeing.
Yeah, most players need the system to suit their strengths. And right now, You know, we see somebody like Trossard playing on the touch line. That doesn't suit him. It doesn't really suit Martinelli either. You know, Jesus really struggled when we switched the system. He couldn't drop deep. Kai Havertz struggles in general, you know, so he needs to buy attackers that can do the things that he wants them to do. And if he can't find those, I think he needs to modify and be just a little bit more flexible. But maybe that's why he's so obsessed with certain profiles and certain players, because he's not going to change his system, because the fact that we continuously talk about Nico Williams and like there's no one else on the planet, then you got to get him. You got to get him.
Oh, who would we get though, Jess, man? There's no one available though. You know this.
I know. It's just, there's a lot I would change about our recruitment and the way that we go about transfers, but you know, it's like their world and I'm just living in it.
Amen. But like what though? Because you said it humorous.
Have more than one target and be flexible enough to move down the list. It really should not be Nico Williams or bust, or Nico Williams or Sterling. We should have went for the Neto, you know, type signing. There's other players that we could have went for. The fact that we're not doing, you know, we have nothing else other than it's like, well, Sesko or die, Nico Williams or die. Like,
I agree.
What? You know, why don't we have more than one? So yeah, that's definitely something I would change. And then I'd also stop just doing the really expensive players in the Premier League. I'd love for us to be able to trust our scouts and trust our process enough where we could get players from outside of the league. Like, because Arsenal fans don't even trust outside the league anymore. I think they feel like they've been burnt, where they're like, nah, I need to see this player in the Prem, because they're actually trying to convince themselves that Sesko is going to be some bum. And I'm like, watch football with your eyeballs.
It can't be hard to improve what we got at the moment, man. I don't know if Lokonga was mismanaged personally to go to this comment. I just think I wanted Lokonga. It just went wrong. I don't think he had the mentality. We've all seen the all or nothing.
Let's think about this like logically with Lokonga, because that's what people will bring up. Well, what about Fabio? He didn't work out from another league. What about Lokonga? Those players, think about the amount of minutes that they had coming to us and how much first team experience they had. Also, the Belgium league, the Portuguese league, and the league that Tavares came from, which I think is also the Portuguese league, none of those are top 5 leagues. The Bundesliga,
a couple of years too early, man.
Those La Liga, those are all top 5 leagues. Not only that, some of these players we're talking about play in Europe and or the Champions League. So there's enough behind it where you can see multiple seasons in a top 5 league, playing in multiple competitions, where you could probably think that they'd be a little bit closer to what we need than a Sambi. Sambi was a Hail Mary.
It just didn't work out. Like, it just didn't work. I think when I look at Fabio Vieira, where I look at Lokonga, not Tavares, because I told everyone he was shit, but I think even he's been better, and I'm not dissing Kivior. There's no agendas today. I think we tried to be a bit too smart, maybe bought these players when they weren't seasoned enough. I think when we have shopped in the Premier League, I think it's been hit and miss. Yeah, I don't want to harp on about Willian and that. I think Rice has been a success. I'm not happy with him as an 8. Havertz, we've failed on one hand, had a bit of success on the other. Ultimately, we've not quite got what we thought. But I also think with Mikel Arteta, we do this weird thing where we take squad players or rotation options and try and make them starters, and then we're surprised why over the course of a season they'll have some good periods, they'll have some better periods, they'll have some worse ones, but ultimately they don't quite get over the line. And it's a unique situation we find ourselves in. You know, we got to deal with Saliba, Saka, and I believe Gabriel Magalhaes's new deals. We need to bring players in, and we've got no sporting director, whether it's going to be the rookie with the greatest of respect in Jason Ato, or, you know, I know Ornstein was saying, or someone was saying the end of January, early February, we're going to start the interview process. It's a bit mad because we all thought we had a bit of stability. You know, it's not looking like that at the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, and as somebody that loves the women's side of it as well, their recruitment has been stunted as well. They don't have a sporting director. Jonas came out and said that he didn't want a sporting director at Arsenal. Behind the scenes, I do think there needs to be a restructuring, more football people, sporting directors in place, and people that trust their talent ID. And the manager
listen to as well, man. Because do you really think they're listened to? Like, because Arteta can veto everything.
They're not. The evidence says that you could say, don't bring in this person. And this is another reason why we need to get Premier League proven talent, because we want to mitigate risks. You can't tell me that you're bringing in those players because you want to mitigate risk and then bring in Kai Havertz. You just can't. I'm so sorry.
Facts.
You know, I'm not listening to you. I need you guys to go get somebody who trusts their talent ID enough to get players from outside the league so that we don't have to spend as much. So we don't have the Isak situation. So we don't have the Bruno Guimaraes situation. So we don't have the Kudus situation. Those are 3 players that if you brought them into our team today, we would not be having these conversations. But we wanted other teams to develop them. And then we want to go to them and say, yeah, so we want the discount.
Even Cunha, everybody wants him, and I defo wasn't saying to sign Cunha when he was at Atletico Madrid, or I'm sure wherever Reece Nelson went when he went Germany on loan, Cunha was there. You have to buy these guys, kind of piggybacking off what you said, before they land where they land, because we're not going to do what we've seen Chelsea do, where, you know, they're going to sign you for whatever money. So this is the issue. I do agree with what you're saying, shopping abroad, but also in the Premier League, like, I just want us to get the 30 Premier League players. It's like, fair enough, Declan Rice 100 million, but after that, half of these players, they had 1 foot, with the exception of to be fair, Ramsdale and Ben White, but that was more seeing what they could be kind of thing. With the exception of Declan Rice, for me, it's bargain hunting. As I think Trossard's probably been one of his better attacking signings, but Brighton wanted to sell him. Jorginho, they wanted him gone. Sterling's only here on loan. Fair enough. Neto, the same logic. And there's probably someone missing out on. And it does feel like it's quite a unique situation that we're going about. But how do you feel about the Zubimendi thing, man? Because we got to speak about Zubimendi and Sesko at depth.
We haven't talked about this. Like, we haven't been on since we did Zubimendi.
Live, but I think the last time we was live, we lost to Man United. But since the last live, we lost to Man United. This David Ornstein stuff came out.
Yeah, because this came out after.
So we haven't, man.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I hear what people are saying, that they're just trying to distract us or whatever. But I legitimately think that this is something that not only needs to be done, but I would prefer it done kind of early, because I don't want to talk about DMs in the summer. And I know that Zubimendi is not like just your typical destroyer type.
I don't want to talk about midfield in the summer. It needs to be sorted, Jess.
Yeah, I'm like, this is something that has to get done. We need to bring in a DM. And I think we only need one. I know that some people are like, we need 2. We just need one. We need somebody to absorb the Jorginho and Partey role. And then we have someone named Miles Lewis-Skelly that can be the backup to that. We do not need to bring in a Partey and a Jorginho replacement. We have Declan Rice that can play DM, and then we'd have somebody like Zubimendi that should be able to play almost all the games. This is a fine signing to me. If you had asked me 2024, you know, or like a year ago, I would have been jumping out of my seat. I'm a little bit cooler on him now, because now that things have developed a little bit more, I'm like, I really want Declan Rice in the 6. That doesn't look like it's happening. So
definitely not.
This is fine. Now the repercussions of something like this is that now the creativity has to come from somewhere else. Because as much as I love Declan down, don't get me wrong, you will never find anybody back in this guy's corner like me. He is not going to be Iniesta in that left 8. He is not going to be Santi in that left 8 ever.
He's never going to be Michael Carrick, man.
No, so the creativity cannot just be burdened on Odegaard. So the left wing must change. I'm expecting a creative left winger to come in, because you cannot have Martinelli, a striker that's more of like a Sesko, which is more just like a regular complete 9, and Saka and Odegaard, and expect to create enough. You cannot. So I'm expecting a left winger to come in, but I like Zubimendi. You know, like, get it done and wrap it up. I'm all for wrapping up deals early, because this is not something I want to talk about in the summer. I want to talk about left wing. I want to talk about attack. I want to talk about that, but what do you think?
I'm with you, man, in that I do understand people are saying, because before this whole Zubimendi stuff, before we won the North London derby, before we went out to United, we've all been very consistent for the best part of a year about us needing signings, about us needing players, right? But we were starting to get briefed about, we're not going to spend. Obviously, I think Jesus' injury, as we discussed, has kind of forced their hand now. But we're not going to spend. We're going to do this in the summer, Cunha in the summer, Kudus in the summer, etc., etc. So I understand fans getting a bit upset about PR and they're trying to distract us, because some fans lap it up. I'm with you in that, but if you lot can get this done, get it done. Me, I'm not going to get too excited yet, because I've seen Aaron Ramsey announced as a Man United player, and then Arsenal obviously signed him. So until it's done and he's holding shirts, I'm not going to get excited, but I do like it in theory. Also, on top of that point I just said, Zubimendi, it's always like you're leaving and then there's a U-turn. So on one hand, I believe it because, you know, the Milk Bells, the Ornsteins, the Romanos, they all kind of came out with it. So there must be some legs, but until it's done, it's not done.
Oh, yeah,
I do,
for sure.
yeah, like I think it gives us a lot of ideas. I do think Declan Rice in the 8's here to stay, but it could be 2-8, it could be a 6 and 2-8s like Zubimendi for Sociedad. A lot of the time is played as a lone 6. So do you have Odegaard and Rice? And then I think the burden is obviously Zubimendi can pass a ball and whatnot, but I still think there's too much of a burden on Odegaard to be the only creator, really. And I think we need to penetrate central areas a bit more. We don't really look hard hitting in that. And it's like you said there, it's like even with what you're saying, I slightly disagree, and I agree with what you're saying that has to come from the left, but it's mainly on Arteta. We need to harm teams from all angles. So I'm all for Zubimendi, but it is where it is. I'm a bit, I wouldn't say concerned, but I'm more intrigued for our midfield options. As you said there, Lewis Skelly, keep doing what you're doing, whether you're going to be an 8 or a 6 or play left back, you're involved. Obviously, assuming Zubimendi signs and you've got Rice and you've got Moreno as a backup. Kai Havertz is probably, assuming we get a striker, going to play in midfield a lot more. I still don't think we got the 8 though. No, you're definitely going to see Kai.
Oh my word!
Because some people even say it, yeah,
to just crash out. Oh my goodness!
And crash out, man.
Of this again. I'm not.
Well, Arteta could buy a striker. They play out wide, and for Kai Havertz, you know.
But I can't.
We're gonna do a madness.
I cannot do this idea that Kai Havertz can, you know, it's like I could play midfield for Arsenal, but y'all don't want to see it. You see what I'm saying? Like I could, but I do not want this. I really want, listen, my brain is going to explode. Now that we can't sell Jesus, I'm also concerned about the money because he's obviously going to be out for a long time. And I'm just like, Kai Havertz getting moved back to midfield when really we have a little bit of room for one other 8 or 8/10. Somebody with a little bit more creativity. But I'm saying, like, you have Zubimendi, Declan, like you were reading off, Odegaard, Wanyeri, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Zubimendi if he signs, and Rice, and you have Moreno.
Fabio Vieira return.
I mean, he's gonna
have to return anyway at some point.
A Fabio Vieira that could play in the league and stand up and all that would be so much better than me watching Kai Havertz do wall passes.
We should bring my boy back, man. He's over there at Fulham. Bring my boy back, man. It could have been Lewis Skelly, Saka, and that. Say all day.
I feel like there's room, left. You know, but I know we won't do it. So whatever. But yeah, man. Just get the
it's interesting,
striker, man.
It is. I would like an 8 because even when I look at Lewis Skelly, I think he could do the left 8 role. But from what I saw at you, the academy, you're at home as a 6, so I could say you're a 6. It's more of a Jorginho kind of 6 where Zubimendi's concerned, and we know with Rice, Havertz would be the closest thing to a kind of 8. I know we play Moreno as an 8, but that man is a 6. I think we're missing stuff, but I think
Moreno is so funny too.
It's just bare 6s, and at the same time, I'm a hypocrite because I think we get hung up too much on it. And you said it earlier, yeah. There's a couple of players. When I've seen the Douglas Luiz links, and you mentioned Gomares, I think we need one of them kind of guys because they can kind of do the 6 stuff and the 8 stuff, and it is where that's concerned, man. We need to look at this Sesko stuff. Big us up for not losing to the top 6. Big up Gabriel Magalhaes. What have you made of this Sesko stuff? Because some people are saying his agent's coming out and it's wide of the mark. You know, the ITKs are saying that we're trying to get things done. He remains a player of interest. Some are sounding a lot more bullish than others. The 1 minute he's got a release clause, then he don't. Like, where are you at with this Sesko stuff? Like, I agree with what you said in that. Bring it now, man. If this is what you want to do in the summer, try and do it right now.
The biggest problem with Arsenal is that whenever we get into a situation where we must buy someone, we don't do what's required. So we distract it because nothing is easier than getting the player to agitate. You know, promise him that you're going to go to a better team and a big team like Arsenal, no offense, but to
You
Leipzig.
always hear Arteta serenades these players anyways. Like,
Yeah,
when Arteta started
that's the
chatting to me, I didn't
easiest
know what
part.
to do.
That's the easiest part. But when we did that with Caicedo, one of the things that made me so angry was that we didn't offer over the odds.
Didn't
We
put the peas
offered,
down.
yeah, we offered just about enough, but like not if you're gonna take somebody's best player in January, you need to offer them something that they cannot refuse.
Amen. Put the
You
money
know,
down.
you
Like,
don't do that. So to going by the reports, which could be false, but what that Sam C guy said was that we're talking to Sesko, and
is he even
one
30 as well? Respectfully, who is he? Like,
yeah,
I'm not even playing him. Who are you to be saying all of this?
we offered a loan with an option. No,
We're not gonna get him. That's a
no.
joke thing.
If he has a release clause, you need to offer more than what the release clause is. I mean, we're talking about 70 million in right now. That's probably what you'd have to say over what they probably will expect to get in the summer to get somebody that you should have already had now.
If he's
That's
got a
your
release clause,
problem.
activate it and make sure he wants to leave mid-season. If he don't,
Yeah.
move on and sign someone else. But put the
There are
plan
players
in place for the winger.
available. There's always players available. Arsenal just
Make
don't
them available, man. Why is it with
yeah,
us? It's always, oh, they're not available.
because
Make
but
man
it's
available.
But that's exactly the point, is that they're available to clubs who want to spend. They're not available to us. That's why they come out and say it's difficult, because they already know that they're not going to offer over the odds because they don't feel like they should have to spend. And I'm like, we are such hypocrites, because if somebody came and wanted one of our players, we'd ask for an arm and a leg. We'd ask for an arm and a leg, but we want to go to Leipzig and get the same price, if not less, than what we would have expected in the summer.
Too much haggling, man.
We are unserious. There's too many lawyers up there going, yeah, but his market value. No one cares about the market value. He's worth a lot more to him or to them than what he's worth to us, because they don't have anyone else. They have Openda. They weren't able to get that Okafor guy. This is an important player
Good
to
point.
them. So of course you're going to have to pay over the odds. Please do not knock on doors if you're not ready to do business. It's embarrassing. So yeah, players aren't available to us because we're not willing to spend. But City are about to buy 4 players in the window, where Arsenal are saying that you cannot buy players.
What have you made of the links to Mbeumo? We've been linked with Visa. Is it Wissa? Apologies for mispronunciation. Like the 2 boys from Brentford. What do you make of them?
Oh my gosh. I love Brian Mbeumo. That
Bring them
guy is
both.
so good. If he wasn't bald, more people would rate him. I'm sorry, but it's just, a pretty
That caught me by
privilege is a real
surprise.
thing. Pretty privilege is a thing, and he's the type of player that, would come in, hit the ground running, and scores goals. And I know that it's not sexy, it's not, some foreign, kind of thing, but he instantly comes in and scores a lot of goals. He can do the Saka stuff, he can play central.
He's better
And
than everyone in our frontline bar Saka. Like.
absolutely. And long term, because we already know Trossard is falling off of the age cliff, it's so important to have a player like Jota in your team. I don't think long term, if you get the left wing and the striker, that he's a starter for us. But my goodness, if you had, like, let's play ball for a second. If you had Nico Williams, Sesko, and Saka starting, and Mbeumo coming off the bench, hello. That is such a good group of attackers. You have goals off of the bench, somebody that can cover multiple positions. And we've never had anybody that can cover the right. Never. So I would take him. But of course, Thomas Frank said, you're not getting him.
Naturally. And we saw it with Ivan Toney last season. Like, it don't make sense. I think he's contracted until 2026 and Visa as well. So it's on brand with what we saw, obviously, prior to the Zubimendi and stuff this week, in that it's all a summer thing, assuming we're going to get that over the line, because I am not an accountant and I want Arsenal to spend money regardless. But, you look at it, we're going to have to get Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes, and Bukayo Saka new deals. Obviously, as Jess said, and you lot already know, the ACL injury to Jesus, that one's done. He's not there. You look at Tierney, he's going to be off the wage bill, and Nelson, that's about 200k a week off the wage bill. Partey and Jorginho probably going to leave. There's a lot to do for a team that ain't got a sporting director at this moment in time. There's a lot to do. There's a lot that we need to pick up that we didn't do last summer. So yeah, and I only speak for myself with this. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll be extremely frustrated, and people will not see a balanced meet if we go into the 2025-26 season. And I'm not part of the Arsenal fans who do the next season FC thing. if we're still talking about midfield rather than what we're going to do with Zubimendi and whatever, but if we're still waffling about midfield, if we're still waffling about attacking depth up front and on out wide, if we're still waffling about the depth of this squad, will check out more than I've checked out, because then we're gonna keep doing the same things, hoping for something different. And I don't think the people at Arsenal are stupid, but us Arsenal fans say this, rival fans say this. They all say, "Raw striker, this, that, and the other." So if we're saying this and we're just mere football armchair experts, what the hell's going on in the club? Because as much as I feel there's a lot of nuances around the money we've spent, we ain't got too much bang for the buck for the amount of time people have been here and certain players and whatnot. Some of these questions should have answers. And if you want to be a team that wins titles, you need answers. What do you feel about Gyökeres then? Because I think for both of us, well, for me anyways, I'd say Isak is first choice. And then I don't know where you stand with Gyökeres and Sesko, and rumors are coming out that we're changing our stance in relation to Gyökeres. Don't know if you should believe it, because coming out of France about a player playing in Portugal, about what British team wants to do. But yeah, where you at with that?
Well, listen, we don't have... Like, we are so far away from, we just need our Van Dijk and Allison signing. We're so far away from that now. Beggars can't be choosers.
Slightly, I think we are there, you know. I can't lie, I disagree.
I don't think we're walking. Basically, what I'm saying is, I don't think we're in a position where we're going to go get that one world-class player that's like...
Yeah, no, we're not signing no one at the point of being world-class and signing for us. Yeah, we're not doing that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
no, I hear that. Yeah, no, we're not. Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, we're not there. We're not there. We have to widen our parameters just a wee bit. The only player that really hits all the marks, which I think you said earlier, is Isak, but he is incredibly unrealistic at this moment. So, or forever, we're never getting him. So
forget it. It's a dream. Sign him in Football Manager or FIFA. Forget it, folks.
Yeah, but tell me right now, guys, close your eyes. Envision Gyökeres in the game yesterday. Does he not kick the ball in the back of the net at least once against Spurs? Please.
Bro, Man United, forget yesterday. Yeah. Man United, West Ham last season.
Yeah.
In fact, all of these, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Please. And so
Arteta fix up the coaching, bring in the players. We're gone.
100%. So yeah, I'm not turning him down. You know, if he's somebody that you can get for the 60, 70 million, bring. Because listen, as much as people are afraid that he's a mirage, I really don't think that even if you have the goals that he scored in the last year, that's still more than anybody else can look at on our team. So
yeah, trust. Like, I'm not even trying to discount Havertz here, but the reality is he's been a lot more consistent than a lot of the attackers, and that's his problem. That's the problem in itself. And many people, obviously, you want signings to go well and whatnot, but no matter how much due diligence, no matter how perfect it is, sometimes things don't work. Like, if we sign a striker and it doesn't work, of course, there's question marks. But you have to go again. If you sign any position and it doesn't work, if you have a manager and it doesn't work, what else are you going to do? Do the same thing? Because, like, for me, again, especially with the striker, goals win games. And I think every Arsenal fan that's balanced, we've said this in the summer, forget the injuries and the climate. If everybody's fit, we still need 2 players to significantly upgrade our starting 11 in that front three, and then you can make a case of another midfielder. I think this is merely just put the issues to the forefront now. And yeah, the club didn't predict these injuries and that, but it goes back to what Jess said at the beginning, in that you've got to plan appropriately. Like, when you're prepared, if we was prepared and everyone's dropping out and things, everybody would say, you know what, fair enough. But can we say we did everything in that summer window? We clearly didn't. Like, we clearly did not. So I think we're very naive. And as I always say, with what we've got now, we're good enough to get to a semi-finals of a League Cup, as we've done, you know, do what we're doing, best team statistics, all of that kind of stuff, be part of it. But you see, when it comes to getting over the line, we don't. You need answers. You need to know, I'm getting X amount of clean sheets. This player is going to bail us out when things are going left. These 2 players are getting double figures. This striker is getting 20 odd. We can rely on, you know, if certain injuries are happening, this is happening. We're doing that. We engineer our own issues. So ultimately, we get so close, but so far. And I know this is the case because the same things I'm waffling about now, I was waffling about in the summer, right? And when you look at it, and I'm not just saying this as copium, because you don't know me, I'm not one of them. We're second. There's better positive statistics. So there has been progress. But I'm past the point of praising people for progress and all of that jazz. It's getting over the line. I want to celebrate something in May. We talk about North London being red. I haven't seen no parade in Islington recently. I might be wrong. Like, and even the Isak thing, even half of the guys we're linked with, yeah. Obviously, Isak found his feet at Sociedad, but there was a time he was robbed. Half of these guys have had times with their shit, and it's just fallen into place. Everybody wants Ademola Lookman. No one wanted him when he was at Fulham. Sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith, provided you've done your evidence. Because we're taking faith. Like, what's weird about us, yeah? When it comes to the Seskos, these kind of guys, yeah, fans and the club want to do this ooming and ahhing, but then nobody's saying this about signing Kai Havertz for 65 million. Like, what? There's no consistency. It's mad.
And like in a perfect world, like what Boy is saying, we get Gyökeres now and we get Sesko in the summer. Because idealistically, we need 2 strikers because Jesus, you know.
Nah, we ain't gonna do that though. Just are we? That's like over 100 odd million quid on Havertz 2 forwards.
Ain't.
Havertz will do the deputy thing, man. You know Havertz is here to stay, man. It's techie.
He is, but I'm just saying, idealistically, that's what we should be doing. If we were serious, we wouldn't even be talking about a Havertz being a deputy and shit.
Yeah, no. Nah, for me, unpopular opinion, I want 2 strikers.
You know, but
I would love it.
At least
winger striker, we're gone. But
yeah, am I lagging out?
No, you're good. You're good. Well,
okay, yeah. So,
did someone say you're lagging?
No, because I was just seeing my thing was going out. But yeah, Adam said we didn't replace Nketiah. But I mean, realistically, we don't have a striker now, and we were gonna look to replace Jesus. So
the number 10 and 14 shirts are free, man. Like, sign some big boy players, man. Like, if money wasn't a thing, the Gamaras, the Kuduses, the Gamara, the Isaks, all of these guys. But there's been points where I'm not gonna say I was the one saying to sign them, but there's been points half of these guys were linked with one, like whether it's Jess, whether it's me, whether it's Sheila in the chat. We've sat here and thought about it. Like, could we have done it? It's like the fans are better scouts than the players. My last question before we head over to your platform, Jess. I didn't show this on screen because I wanted to wait. How does this make you feel? Real Madrid make contact with William Saliba's entourage. Long story short, he's contracted until 2027. Bearing in mind, next year is a World Cup season. We know it's going to happen one day, but is it going to happen sooner rather than later?
The picture is making me fucking die. No, I mean, I feel in my gut we'll keep him for a little bit longer. I don't think this summer is the summer that they'll get him. But I think these will, as long as we're not winning things, even if we are, this is going to come out. And we're in the middle of a transfer window. Arsenal are, for the most part, not doing well. And so this is the perfect time to throw something out there to get Arsenal fans going crazy. But of course, Real Madrid make contact with William Saliba's entourage. This wouldn't be the first time that they've ever spoke to him. This is probably the second or third time that they've spoken to him. Mbappe is in his ear. Let's be honest. They're
guessing him.
Yeah, so it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it and not act like it's nothing. But because my gut tells me that we have him for at least one more season, I'm not alarmed. But this is not going to change anytime soon. So I wouldn't get rattled every single time that you see it.
I'm with you, Jess, man, in that I've made peace with it. At the end of the day, it's the circle of life, innit? In the same way, if you don't want to win trophies like Son, you commit your future to Spurs. Arsenal were not the biggest and baddest. It's Real Madrid, it's the Holy Grail. Saliba like Saka, they keep talking about, I need to win trophies, I need to do this, I need to do that. And it can't be nice being the nearly men. And obviously I'm reaching, but you look at Declan Rice's comments, as you mentioned, it's kind of alluding to we need reinforcements. I wonder how the players feel. Like, when is he going to feel? A bit like Henry, that this is the best place for you to win trophies. For me, the best case scenario with Saliba would be to win a Prem. I'd love to win a Champs. You go do your Real Madrid thing. Somebody mentioned, and it's a great point by F, when he's not trolling about Newcastle, he's quite a good lad. You look at the 3 signings that Real Madrid potentially could get. They got Mbappe, they're trying to get Davies, they're trying to get Trent. I will get extremely upset if we let Saliba go for free. I know it's a thing in football, but that should be our record sale. He should be our record sale. That's 100+ million. Then we riot. So
I was saying it on Mo's show and they laughed at me, and I'm like, honestly, I think he's gonna sign a new deal, and that'll extend it, but we'll lose him, but we'll get a good fee. He's not gonna,
slightly.
Yeah, he's not gonna go for free to Real Madrid. and we'll see how it goes. But I think Saliba loves Arsenal more than people think. Like I think
Love enough though.
Not enough to stay forever, but I think enough like where he'll sign a new deal. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But if I'm wrong, I'll hold corn.
As we would, man. That's the day and age of being a content creator, man. Like it is what it is. But yeah, on that note, people, the good news is that we're heading over to Jess's show. The bad news is that we're done now. Just let them know where they can find you and where we're heading off to, man.
Yeah, just I don't think. Well, is my stuff in the description? No.
Your title, your YouTube channel's in the title.
Okay, YouTube channel is in the title, so you guys can just click on that or just put Shino's Arsenal in the search, and I'll pop up.
There we go, man. So yeah, people, let us know what you lot think. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Join us over on Jesse's platform. But for now, people, over and out, man.
Like